Hello friends, it's Kati and welcome to another video. Today's video is more of a sit down chatty video, and today we are going to be talking about books. Now, in order to get myself back into the groove of reading and prepare for my role as a literary magazine editor, I have decided to come on here and talk about books that I want to read in 2026 as like a form of accountability. My excuse was always school, and now that school is over, there are no excuses. So, without further ado, let's get into the 10 books that I will be reading in 2026. The first book on my list is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, and like most people, this book I've been seeing everywhere. This book was everywhere this year, and I just didn't get the chance to pick it up. I really want to read the hard copy of this book. I don't want to have to look for an ebook. There are no good bookstores in Jos, so maybe when I go out of town, or maybe somebody in a different state can pick it up for me. But I'm really hoping that in the new year I will be able to get my hands on this book and finally read it. I have read one of Sally Rooney's books, Normal People, which is the most popular one. It's the one that everybody knows, and I really enjoyed Normal People. I enjoyed Normal People in like a very scary way. I made the book my personality when I read it, and I tried reading one of her other books, Beautiful World, Where Are You Now? Or Where Are You? I tried reading the book, but I couldn't really get into it the way I got into Normal People. So I'm hoping that with Intermezzo, it will be different. Now, the story of Intermezzo, from what I've seen, it follows two brothers, and they just lost their father. And the story is really talking about their relationship with one another, as well as their relationship with their respective partners. There's a lot of discussions about age gap relationships, which, were very big this year or last year. Age gap relationships have really been in recently, and so the book touches on some of that as well, and I'm really just excited to check it out. Also, my notes are on my laptop, so if you see me glancing to the side, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. Now, the second book that I'm planning to read is The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. And Amy Tan is such a great author. I have read two of her books, Saving Fish from Drowning, and on my birthday last year, I got The Kitchen God's Wife, which I honestly want to read again. This book, The Joy Luck Club, it was released in 1989, so it's more on the older side. The book follows Chinese immigrant families living in San Francisco, and a lot of people have praised this book for how true to life it is, how very realistic it is. And of course, that is something that Amy Tan would know how to, write about. And it's said to be a very good book. There is a movie adaptation. I haven't seen the movie. I want to read the book and then watch the movie. But I'm very, very excited to see, what this story is about, and to read another book by Amy Tan. Now, the third book on my list is actually a non-fiction book, and it is The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. Now, I believe this book came out in 2021. There is a podcast with the same name. The book is based off of the podcast, and on the podcast, John Green would discuss, he would review essays about humanity, essays about humans and the planet, and how we interact with the world, and how we treat each other. And he discussed some of the essays from the podcast in this book, and there are also some new essays that he added to the book. And this is a book that I have been wanting to read ever since it came out. I'm very, very into nerdfighteria. I'm even in the Discord community, so this is a book that I should have read a long time ago, but I want to give it a go now, okay? I'm a really huge fan of the Green Brothers, and this book is a must read for me. Now, the fourth book on my list is No Longer Human by Osama Desai, and this book is one I started reading it a couple of years ago, but something happened. I think I got distracted by another book, and I dropped that one and started reading the other one. So I really want to go back into the story and figure out what was going on, because the book started, it was very interesting. Okay, in the beginning of the book, we see the main character, this young boy, who feels like, even at such a young age, he feels like he's not really a proper human being. He feels like he has to put up this facade constantly and pretend to be the character that people want him to be. and never really being able to be his true self. And the original title of the book in Japanese, Ningen Shikaku, translates to disqualified as a human being or a failed human being. And so from where the book started, I'm really interested in seeing where the story goes and more about this character's life. At number 5 is Animal by Lisa Tadu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but this book has also been on my TBR for years. I don't remember where I came across it, but it is a feminist book. It's a book about feminine rage, and the main character in the book, Joan, is someone who has, she's faced a lot of cruelty from men over the course of her life. And this book is about her getting her power back, and striking back. And I really want to read a book that's like that, because femicide and, bad things happening to women is something that we have seen a lot of, not only this year, but like just in life in general. And so a book like this, it reminds me of this one book I read by Sydney Sheldon. If I find the name, I can't remember the name now, but, the premise of this book kind of reminds me of that. And I'm very excited to see what the book is about and really get into it, and what is the story behind Animal. I'm really, really curious to know. I think we need more books about feminine rage and, how women help each other, in situations like this, which happens in the book. Joan and her friend, she's helped by her friend Alice. And so I would really like to dive into the book and see what that's about. The next book is Trouble with Being Born by Emile Cioran, and this book is also a pretty old one, and it is a book that is more on the philosophical side. The title also reminds me of No Longer Human, and I don't know where I first heard of this book, probably somewhere on TikTok or Instagram or somewhere. But this year I have been really into reading those, free philosophy books on the books app on my phone. I read The Destiny of Man by John Fiske, I believe, and so I really wanted to read more on the topic of like life, and this book dives into human beings and their relationships with one another, as well as other things that human beings have interact with, like religion, and just the whole concept of death and dying is all discussed in this book. And I would like to read it. I love reading books that touch on topics such as these ones. Now, the 7th book is probably my favorite one on this entire list, and that is The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. I have read every single Dan Brown book except, his children's books, which I didn't even know he had. But The Secret of Secrets is the new book that just came out in September. I want to read it so bad. I would have read it this year, but I mean, there is still time to read it. But I also want to get a hard copy of this book. I don't want to read an ebook, so I'm looking for where I'll get a hard copy of this book, and I really want to read it. Now, this is the 6th Robert Langdon book, 4th or 6th Robert Langdon book, and it's just going to be nice to dive back into that world. Dan Brown's books are so immersive, and the storytelling is always on point. I still am not sure if his books, if what he says in his books are real or not, if it's just fiction, but I think that's part of what I love so much about the book, is that he talks about these things that you see in real life and are happening in real life, and you're not exactly sure if he's making it up or if it's actually real. So I'm very, very excited to check out The Secret of Secrets. Next is Alchemized, which is a book written by Senlin Yu, and I only just heard about this book recently. Now, apparently it is based off of a fan fiction written by the same author, which is about it. What is it even called again? Hermione. I don't know what the when they ship two people's names together, but it is about Hermione and Draco Malfoy, which I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know people were talking about Hermione and Draco in that way. But the book was inspired by that whole ship, and also by The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which is my current read now, and which is why I decided to add this book on there. I'm not exactly sure what the premise of this book is. I know that it is dark fantasy and dark romance, and I've really been getting into reading fantasy books again. So this one, it's a really, really huge book. I saw some pictures of the hard copy, and it's War and Peace level thick, so it will take a while to finish, and I'm just excited to check it out and see what this whole Draco Malfoy Hermione situation is about. Now, second to last on my list is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. As I said, I've been getting more into fantasy books, and this year I read the first two books in the Empyrean series based off of a recommendation, Daddy Fantasy, if you know, you know. And I just really want to know what happens, what, goes on in the book. Because the way the last book ended, it didn't really end on like a cliffhanger per se, but like what had transpired at the end of that book, it was like the stakes were high. The stakes were very, very high. And so I want to know what goes on in the story, how far with Violet and the rest of them. Like, I want to read it now even, but I'll just wait till next year and finish the ones that I'm reading right now before, I pick up something new. And last on my list is a book that I'm sure some people would sue me for not having read it by now, but it is The Death of Vivek Oji by Akweke Emezi. And this book, I have heard so many great things about it. I read Freshwater last year and I really, really enjoyed Freshwater, even though the person who recommended Freshwater to me, or who, let me know about Freshwater, didn't really enjoy the novel, but I read it and I love how the book was, interwoven with like a lot of spirituality, things about spirituality, and I would really like this book to do that as well. I mean, I don't expect it to do the same thing, but it's by the same author and I expect great things from this book. I'm really, really looking forward to reading it, and it is an older one, and I want to read her new fantasy book as well after The Death of Vivek Oji, but I didn't include it on this list because I don't want to add too much pressure to myself. Okay, let's just keep it at 10 and see if we can actually, reach that number by middle of the year. My goal is to finish reading all these books by the end of June, so we will see. So those are the books that I plan to read next year. If you have any recommendations for me, you can write it down in the comments. I would really appreciate them. Yeah, if you have any other videos that you would like to see from my very, very dormant channel, let me know as well. And yeah, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, which hopefully will be sometime soon. Bye.